Hello and good evening, everyone. I'm Valerie Gilchrist, and this is Esther's Purpose, and we are live again this week. I am so excited to be live with everyone so that we can have some real engaging dialogue with each other, okay? Last week, we ended our session last week talking about detoxing and how to do that, and I issued a challenge. And I asked everyone who was watching to take one thing that you think or that you do and challenge your why so that we can start this detoxing process, so we can get back to our original self, so that we can actually operate in our purpose, in our why we were placed in the earth. I hope everyone took the challenge. I asked that you would drop your challenge inside the comments, whether it was the same night we did the broadcast or through the week. Whether you did or not, I just hope that you did it. I hope that you took that challenge to start detoxing your why. So I want to talk about tonight that I want to go back and say that being authentic means, I want to give you a smaller definition than what I gave last week. Being authentic means operating from your core self in your daily life. Operating from your core self. Who are you at your core? And literally operating from that place every day in everything that you do. Operating from your core. Most of us have no idea what our core is. And we did a lot of talking about that and the reasons why. And we ended last week talking about the fact that we needed to detox. So I want to talk more tonight about detoxing. So when you detox, you get rid of things that are toxic or unhealthy for you as an individual. Now, you and I could do the same exact thing. For me, it might be a problem and I might need to detox from it because it's hindering who I am to my core. For you, it might not be. So this is an individual walk in our life of detoxing, of getting to our authentic self. And so I issued a challenge last week that was at least one thing that you do, check it and see your reason why you do it. Where did it come from? Did it come from your core self, from your core values, who you know that you are? Or did it come from a relative, a friend, situation, circumstance, something in your life that caused you to think the way you think in that particular area or behave the way you do in these certain situations? We've got to figure that out so that we can get to our authentic self. So in the detoxification process, what we're doing is we're removing things that are toxic to us, substances or qualities. There are qualities that cause us to be uniquely who we are. Those things that's causing us to be uniquely who we are might not actually be, again, our authentic self. They came from something that occurred in our life, something that happened to us that took us off of our original course. That thing could have happened while you were actually being developed in the womb. Something your mother was going through, something that transpired in her life, something genetically that might have been going on with your either parent, something that happened way before you were even breathed your first breath of life. It could have happened then. It could have happened after you were born. But whenever it happened, we've got to challenge our thinking and our behaviors. So I asked you to give me one. So when I talked about detoxifying, there were some questions about, okay, so what is that? What would be toxic to me? What does that look like? Give me an example. Show me what that means. So I wanted to come back tonight with some definitions so that you would understand. And so that I could be more clear in what I'm talking about. When you talk about something as toxic, it is poisonous, harmful, unsafe, unfriendly, injurious, malignant. Watch this definition. Fatal, deadly, lethal as far as a person, a situation, circumstance. Now think about that. That is what it means for something to be toxic to you as an individual. It might be toxic to you, but it might not be toxic to me. But we've got to make this detoxification process an individual thing. It cannot have anything to do with anyone else, not your family, not your friends, not your coworkers, your classmates, your neighbor. This is an individual thing for you, so that you can get to your authentic self, so you can start operating in what you do. Well, Valerie, you talked about this all last week. You're talking about it again. Tell me again why this is important. It's important because everything you do, if you're not operating from your authentic self and you're toxic with things that are unfriendly, unsafe, harmful, injurious, right, lethal, fatal, deadly, it's not just that for you. It's for everyone in your circle, everyone that you're involved with or that is involved with you, co-workers, family members, friends, neighbors. You're going to the grocery store shopping, just people that you're around. You could be toxic to them because of what's going on in your life. And so we want to really address the fact that being toxic is not only harmful to you, but everyone in your surrounding. And when we start wondering why we're getting the responses that we're getting from other people that maybe we want to be in relationship with, whether it's business or personal or whatever it is, why we're not, if you're trying to be in relationship with someone who understands who they are authentically, and they've done this kind of work, they actually can sense and pick up when someone is operating in a way that is toxic to them. Check it. Listen to what I'm saying. Haven't you ever been around somebody that every time you get around them, they make you itch, scratch where you shouldn't be itching? Somebody that for some reason, you just seem to can't be yourself when you're around them. These people that you're around like that could be people who are operating in a behavior that is toxic for you as an individual. Might not affect everybody else that way, but it affects you. Think about it. Have you ever had that situation happen where you got around, every time I get around this person, I get to feel in some kind of way? And you can't really describe it. You don't really know where it comes from, but you know that every time you're around them, this is the way that I get to feel it. So what we want to do is we want to really dive deeper into what this detoxification process looks like. The first step I gave you all last week was to challenge your why. At least take one thing that you're doing and challenge why are you doing it. That's what we talked about last week. So what I want you to do is I want everyone to understand that when you're being your authentic self, you should have some core values. There should be some core values that no matter what happens, no matter what's going on around you, you operate like this. You're not moved by what's going on around you. And so those core values, we always hear it talked about basically in business, in corporate America. But what we don't understand is we should have some. You are your own corporation, okay? You're your own business. So you should have core values. That way, even if you go on a job, if you read what the core values are to this organization that you're applying to become an employee with, if they don't line up with yours, then you shouldn't even be applying for that job, no matter how bad you need one. Those two, that's like mixing oil and vinegar. You've got to know who you are and what your core values are. So these core values are your foundational beliefs. So this is still going back to what I was talking about last week about challenging what you do, how you think, what you say. You've got to have foundational beliefs in your life that are unmovable, unshakable, right? That work for you as an individual to get you where you're going, okay? So they're your guiding principles that motivate how you behave or how you respond in and to life. I want to read that again to you. Your core values are your guiding principles. What are your guiding principles? Have you defined them for yourself? What are your guiding principles that motivates how you behave or respond to life itself? Not necessarily an individual in a particular behavior. I'm talking about life. You know, a lot of times we talk about how life does us. Well, why is life doing you? You should be doing life, right? But life handles us in particular ways when we're not firmly rooted and grounded in our core values of who we are. We get into a lot of trouble. We get into a lot of situations and circumstances that if we had our core values firmly in place, and if we knew what they were, there's a lot of relationships we'd have never gotten in. There's a lot of situations, circumstances that we would have never gotten in. There's jobs we had that we would have never done. But we haven't, a lot of us have never even been taught this. We didn't even know the word core value. How many of us didn't know the word core values until maybe you went to work for a company somewhere in corporate America and they started talking about what their core values were? When you heard it, did it check in your spirit that, wow, this company has core values, but I don't? Did you ever think that way? You are a corporation. You are your business. You are. There should be some core values that you have that are unmovable. The only person that can move it is you. Is if as you transition through life and as you mature, you might have to go back and revisit those. Corporations do it all the time. They might have to change it. They've got to tweak it. They've got to move it to match the next place that they're going, the next thing that they want to do, the next product that they're presenting, whatever it is, the next level they want to go to. We should operate in the same way as individuals. So they're not so hard and fast that you can't change it. It's just that someone else can't change it. Someone else can't move you into an arena that you don't want to go in, something that you don't want to do because it goes against your core, who you are. So we've got to define those. So your core values are your foundational beliefs for your life. They're your guiding principles that motivates how you behave or how you respond to life. A lot of times we're not ready. You know, when we're in school, the one thing that we can all do, remember when we're in school, and I don't know if they still do them today, I would hope they do, but you remember when you were in school and they had fire drills? And every now and then they'd have a random fire drill because practicing for the fire. What are you supposed to do? Here's the checkoff list. So that when that thing occurs, it happens naturally. There's not a panic. You're not running around wondering. Well, that's what happens to us in life. We have a lot of fire drills that go on in our life. Because why? We're not operating from our authentic self. Because if we are, then we have core values, we have principles, we have beliefs, we have boundary systems set up for ourselves. Now, I want you to understand that I didn't either. I'm no different than you are. I didn't either. This revelation came to me much later in life. I was out there like most people. We're just doing things and life is just doing us. And we didn't have that. And because we didn't, we just went on down the stream of life and let life and situations and circumstances handle us any kind of way. We didn't take responsibility. We weren't the driver. We weren't the captain of our ship. Life was doing it, right? Through the vehicle of others, of other people that were around us, that we were involved with, however that was. And so we don't have it. So we've got to make sure that we take the time, that we detox ourselves, our thinking, our behaviors, our attitude, our responses to things by challenging our why. So why do I think like that? That was the challenge for last week. We want to make sure that we do that. The other enemy of our authenticity is our why can feel like an enemy. Our why can. Why were we put in the earth? What is it that we're supposed to be doing? There are times when whatever it is that we're supposed to be doing, it actually will repel you. You'll start reaching after it and going after it. And as you go after it, you'll back away from it because it's making you feel some kind of way. You're not really sure about, okay, should I really do this? And the reason why you're unclear is because you're not operating for your authentic self. Nothing would be able to come to you if we are operating in our authentic self. That should take more than a few seconds to get a yes or no from my knower, checking it. Whatever I'm doing, whatever situation or circumstance I'm in, my knower should be checking it. And my knower are my core values of who I am, the rules that govern my life, the principles that govern my life, that I am the only one who can make those rules. Now, yes, when we're brought up at home, there's rooms in the house, there's rules in the house, there's principles in the house that we're raised by. Then we go to school and there's rules and principles there. And then we go to higher level education, if that was the route we took, and there's rules and principles there. When I got out of school, when I got out of high school, I went into the military. There were rules and principles there. You go into a job, there's rules and principles. When you go to rent your first place to live, rules and principles. When you buy your own home, even though we say it's ours, there's rules and principles. Because there's things you can do, like not pay your mortgage. There's ways that you can lose that. So our whole life is governed by rules and principles. But the one person whose rules and principles that need to matter to us more than anything else is our own. But we're not brought up that way. And because we're not brought up that way, we just go on down the river of life and it takes us wherever it wants to take us. And somewhere, for a lot of us, for the lion's share of us, somewhere about midlife, we start looking back going, how did I get here? How did I get in this place? We have a tendency to call it midlife crisis. Is it a midlife crisis? Is that what it is? Or is it more of because my authentic self is now starting to rise up? Who am I? What do I really want? We call it all different kind of names, but the reality is, who am I? What are my governing principles? How do I establish that? And this is why I gave you all the challenge last week of at least picking one thing and challenge why you do that or why you think that. Why do you operate like that? Where did it come from? To check the level of authenticity. Is this truly me? Or do I think like this because this is the way that I was raised and my dad thought like this, my mom thought like this. This was the culture in my environment that I was raised. Where did it come from? Did it fit you? Does it feel comfortable on you? I want to give you an example, like going out when you go buy clothes. Now, when you go out and buy clothes, in the dressing room, there's this great big huge mirror. You can turn around and look on all sides of how you look in that. Now, I'm just going to say this. There are times when we might go out places, somebody might look and challenge what you have on and thinking, wow, I wouldn't have worn that. It doesn't matter. How did it look to you? How did it make you feel when you put it on? Did that color fit you? Did that style fit you? Did the length fit you? Did something about when you put it on make you feel uncomfortable? Was it maybe something that the fabric was even made out of? Everybody can't wear wool. Wool makes some people itch. Wool doesn't make everybody itch, but some people it does. And so we are very uniquely created and made for a particular purpose in life. And those unique qualities that we have that might not look like anybody else in our circle, which then makes us now change because we want to, swim down the lake like, down the river like everyone else. But at the end of the day, when I stop and I get to the end of my day, I need to check myself and see, well, did I operate in my authentic self that day? Did I handle the situation, the circumstances, the things that happened in my life? Did I operate in my authentic self? Did I handle that situation the way I really wanted to? Let's go a little further. Even in the raising of our children, A lot of times when we raise our kids, no matter how much we say, we're not going to do it. We didn't like the way our parents raised us. Oh, I am not going to do it. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be real transparent. Anybody who watches my shows, all these times I've been doing Esther's Purpose shows since August of last year, I always tell them myself, my guests will do it, but I tell them myself, I'm not prideful like that. I'll do it. But I don't do it just to be doing it. I do it to help. Okay? So inside that help, I share my stories. And so you really want to challenge, where do these things come from? So I spent a lot of time, because I had a lot of struggles about the way that I was brought up in the home with my parents. And I brought my kids up listening to the stories of things that I struggled with and what I was unhappy about, because I really thought that, I'm sharing, I'm being transparent. I want to help them because I don't want them to struggle like I did. Well, about the time they got into their tweens, 12, 13, they looked at me one day and said, Mom, you're not doing it exactly the same way, but you're doing the things with us that you said you didn't like when you were raised up, and we don't like it either. I was shocked. I was completely shocked. I did not realize that I was doing the exact same thing in a different way, but the same thing. Let me tell you why I went down this memory road with you. Because in that detoxing process, if we detox properly so that we can operate in purpose like we need to and be powerful and effective in what we do, we're going to have to detox. We've got to challenge our thinking. Even if you happen into purpose, it'll never prosper for you. It'll never be the benefit to the people that the product, which is you, has to deliver to inside a relationship, at work, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you work for a corporation or not, inside relationship with your family members, friends, spouses, children. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You've got to challenge it to the point where you are operating authentically. You're not trying to be a copy of anybody. You're being who you are, so that at night you can be okay and you can peacefully rest, because even if you had a challenging day, that doesn't mean everything is going to go perfectly your way every day, every week, every month, every year. You're going to have peaks and valleys like everyone else through this path of going down this road to being authentic. But at least you can rest peacefully at night saying, the decisions that I made, they came from me. I can't blame anybody else for them. They came from me. So if a correction needs to be made, I need to correct it because it came from the way that I think. I can no longer blame my life, check, on anybody else. We get real comfortable in blaming the things that we happen on. Well, I was raised like this, or this is the way that I was treated. I know I did it for 30 plus years of my life. I would blame what happened in my life on the way that I was brought up at home. It was easier to do that than to blame it on myself, because I never took the time or opportunity to fix it, to change it. I didn't know how, and I didn't know I should, but I needed to figure it out. And so you ask, well, Valerie, why are you coming on even talking about these things to us? Here's why. Your purpose is king. And I talked about this a little bit last week. So as Esther had her time with the king, you're going to have your time with the king. You're going to have your opportunity and moment when, while you were here put in the earth, you've got to be positioned and ready for that moment when it happens. When you're ready now to operate like that. If you go into that time and you have not detoxed, guess what? It's not going to profit you. You're going to struggle with it. It's going to challenge you, because what you're supposed to be doing is not going to accept, nor the people's lives you're supposed to impact. They're not going to accept you doing it any kind of way. You actually now will end up harming the very people you're trying to help. In the way corporate America is going today, The spirit of entrepreneurship is going to have to come back in everybody's life, because we're not going to have those jobs to go to. It's not going to be much longer. We're not going to have that job to go to that's somebody else's vision, because understand, if you don't have your own, you're going to work somebody else's vision. So you can work your vision or you can work someone else's. But either way, it won't prosper if you're not operating in your authentic self, because you're going to be doing things that's not going to give you peace and joy as you do it. You won't be able to do it at your best when it's not you. Yeah, you can go be a cheap copy if you want to, but why? When you can actually do things that are coming from your authentic self, therefore you have peace and you have joy and you have power and you have the strength to do what you need to do, because everything is still not going to be perfect. But yet, at least if I'm doing it from my authentic self, I have the tools necessary to outlast the stormy weather, because we're going to have it inside of whatever we do. So understand, you can either do it out of your authentic self, where you have the tools and the strength and power to work through the difficult times, or you can still work to have to go through the difficult times, but you drown every time. You lose every time. You quit every time. You've got to restart, because sooner or later, you've got to get tired of restarting. I got so tired of restarting. Every time I thought I was in a win, I would hit this wall every time. I would get to a certain point and I would hit the wall. And I couldn't understand, why did this not prosper? It was looking great when I started it. You might be a few years into the process. Check it. Look at your life. Why do you keep hopping around doing things from job to job, person to person, friend to friend, spouse to spouse? What is it? Is it really everybody's fault? Is it? Because think about it. The common denominator is, guess what? It's you. You're the common denominator in all of the situations and circumstances that you've been in your life. So if things are not going the way you want them to go, nobody's going to change for you. You've got to change yourself to your authentic self. Not change yourself and become, whoever somebody else wants you to be, which is what we typically try to do. Us girls, when we go out and we're trying to date and we're trying to get that guy's attention, we'll find out what he likes to eat, what's his favorite color. Oh, we go find out all kind of stuff. And we try to mold and shape ourselves and make us into that person. Well, that's still not going to last very long, because your authentic self is always going to be fighting, trying to get out. And after you've been in that relationship for a while, it'll fail. You'll go into another relationship and it'll fail. The common denominator is you. Same thing with jobs. Same thing no matter what you do. So when you live in that life of failure after failure after failure, at some point in time, you got to stop and figure out, why do I keep failing? Why does this life I want to live keep eluding me? It's because you're not operating out of your authentic self. I want to put this disclaimer in here right now. That doesn't mean you're not going to have hills and valleys. It doesn't mean that. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have struggles. But in those struggles, in those storms that you go through, you'll be able to have peace. You'll be able to still have joy. You'll be able to go to sleep at night with a clear conscience. You'll be able to navigate the waters more effectively, and you will get the result in the end. Those things I can tell you for a certain. But if you never get to your authentic self, because you will not take the time to detox, you're going to keep living that cycle over and over and over again, and you'll transition into eternity and never achieve why you were put in this earth. Never actually did your purpose. Have you ever saw somebody doing something you want to do? You say, wow, I thought about that and I want to do that. Why didn't you? Why didn't you do it? Same issue. So I want to issue the challenge out again. I want to challenge everyone who listens to this, no matter if it's tonight, next week, next month, whenever you hear it. I want you to take the time to detox. I want you to get rid of everything in your life that's unhealthy for you. You know how your body responds when you're allergic to something and you have an allergic reaction, right? You're itching, you're sneezing, you're coughing, you get a headache. Whatever that goes on when you're around something that you're allergic to, same process. Things that make you itch, things that make you cry, things that are keeping you up at night, things that are worrying you, things that you cannot get peace over. Those are some things that you need to be writing down so that you can detox from those situations, stop getting in those situations all the time. That process is getting rid of those things that are poisonous, harmful, unsafe, unfriendly, injurious to you. Those things that are fatal and deadly to who you truly are, that will render you ineffective in the earth. And that is not what you want said about you when your life is over, that you never achieved, you never accomplished anything. That person was miserable all their life. You don't want that. And so I'm going to issue the challenge again, and I might do this, I don't know how long. Every time you see me, I'm going to leave you with this. Here's the quote from Miles Monroe. When purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. Just know that. The person who's abusing you is you. You are abnormally using your gifts, your talents, who you are when you don't know purpose. So take the challenge this week. Let's detox. Let's take one more thing and let's detox from it. All right. I'm Valerie Gilchrist. This is Esther's Purpose. Have a great week. See you next week. Good night, everybody.